Okay, so in these videos, we are going to be looking at aspects of social structure and culture. I'm focusing primarily on culture as we'll be digging into social structure throughout the latter sections of this course. So in this module, we'll talk a little bit about social structure up front in this video and what that means. And then we're really going to spend the next videos digging into aspects of culture, particularly symbols and language, norms, values and beliefs, and material culture or cultural objects, which is often what we think of when we think of culture, things like art, housing, design. We tend to think of that as culture. Um, but we'll see there's a lot of different things that fall under this. And then we'll look at the levels of culture, look at subcultures, national cultures, um, and compare different kinds of cultures. So social structure and culture. We can think of these as slightly different things, though often they're conflated. I often say that social structure is the hardware of society. So this is the box your computer is in, but even if it's beautifully built and perfect, your computer doesn't really run. It's just a machine. Culture makes up the software. Culture makes up the design, the images, the operations of everything that goes on within the machine and the machine does. Um, so social structure is largely made up of social positions and relations among those positions, and these build up into larger institutions and formal organizations. So what does that mean? Well, we'll dig into this a lot throughout the semester, but if we think about something like the family is a kind of social structure. The social positions we're familiar with often there are parents, and usually there are children. Um, Unlike culture, which is very fluid and can change relatively, the basic family structure hasn't changed very much in several thousand years. It's pretty straightforward. There are parents and children, and usually it's been a heterosexual couple. Now today, we do see different kinds of families. We see many single parent families, for example, or we see same-sex families, or families with same-sex parents. But we might note that there's been a lot of resistance to these changes in the structure of the family. Um, Again, we have the same fundamental position here, even though there's a slight change in who fills out the position, but there's two parents and a child. Right? So changes to social structure tend to be very slow and happen over long periods of time, and there often is a lot of resistance to it. Culture, again, is all of the meaning that goes into these social structures and how we make sense of them. Another way of thinking of this distinction is thinking of the layout of a house. Social structure is like the basic building blocks, the walls, the doors, the basic rooms in a house. But before you fill those rooms with anything, there's very little difference between the rooms. Um, Maybe some have particular kinds of plumbing, for example, but beyond that, um, what the room is and what its purpose is, that depends on everything that fills it up. If you put a large table in there, um, if you put a couch and some chairs in there, if you put an oven or a stove or cooking space in there, this starts to give meaning and to fill up uh, the structure. Right? So these can't exist without each other, um, and they kind of shape and structure each other, but uh, social structure is a little bit sort of harder in some senses. It's harder to change. It lasts much longer. Um, and culture is what kind of fills it in. And we'll kind of dig into this as in the next couple of videos. So basically, they're not the same thing. This is often confused. Many societies are multicultural, as ours is. There are different ways of even speaking the common English language. There are folks within American society, for example, who um, do not speak English, and we don't even have an official language. There's some people want to make it one. Societies often constrain culture. So here's one example of that. Society may pass laws to try to um, make an official language for American society. But this starts to give us a sense of how there can be lots of different cultures within the social structure. All right, so we're going to dig into this more in the next couple of videos of what is culture. What do we mean when we talk about it? What we'll be looking at in the next few videos is the basic aspects, symbols and language, values and beliefs. So this is where students often get a little messed up because they don't often get distinction between a value and a belief. So we'll be working on that in our discussion period as well. Norms and laws. Norms are centrally important to our everyday lives. And cultural objects, or material culture, the stuff we make and produce and consume, including food, podcasts, and buildings. So in our next video, we're going to start off with symbols and language, something like this one. What does this symbol mean? And why do you know? We'll find out in the next video.